Hi, everyone. I'm glad that we are back together again. Every story I tell is true as well as factual. One time I was asleep in the dead of the night. I just told this to the high school teachers. And I suddenly remembered, oh my gosh, I forgot to feed my cat. So I bolted out of bed and went to the kitchen and was looking on the kitchen floor for the cat food. I couldn't find the cat food until I had to stop myself and say, Monica, remember who you are. You don't own a cat. In fact, you don't like cats. Go back to bed. You're sleepwalking. That is a true and factual story. I'm sorry for those of you who love cats. Why am I telling you that? Because I would suggest to you that we're kind of sleepwalking in this day and age, this culture. We've forgotten who we are, that we're made in God's image and likeness, which mostly means we're made for love. And our bodies, when we live out the truth of our bodies, they let us know that we are meant for love. All right, so what I'd like to do in this session, now that it is preschool through 8th grade teachers, I would like to direct some of my concrete ideas about how to present the theology of the body to you teachers of younger kiddos. And so I just want to commend you for all the work that you're doing right now, especially in the post-COVID time and all the trouble that is. One of the teachers, her name is Colleen Smith. She's in Lincoln, Nebraska. And one of the things that she did because of the COVID, this is last semester, is she put a picture of herself, and then next to herself she put TBM, which her kids know stands for The Body Matters. And so she's pointing at them. In other words, that picture showed them that something is amiss, that they had been contacting her like, Miss, I miss being with everyone. And so what she was pointing out is, yeah, the reason why you miss school is because the body matters. There's something different about what I'm doing right now with you, with the video. I can't see your expression. I don't know whether you're all going like this to me. I don't know if you're smiling. I don't know what's going on. And so what that shows is something is not as good as it could be, is one way of putting it. It doesn't mean technology is bad, but it just means being body to body is preferable. Now let me let you use this expression body to body, because this is, I think, an important lingo that you can start incorporating for little kiddos. Whether it's kindergarten all the way, you probably should stop saying body to body around 6th or 7th grade, because then they start realizing about sexuality, and sometimes they sexualize it. But I think it's really important, because what that points to is the truth of the human person, that we are body persons, and we are made to interact with each other as gifts through our bodies. And since the body points to the whole person, remember, the whole person is who is interacting. So that's why when we say body to body, it's just another way of saying person to person. And this is a true and factual story. I have a special needs nephew. He is now 13, and he's just an awesome little guy. And what he's learned from the time that he was conceived on is he knows that Aunt Monty, that's what he calls me, Aunt Monty, emphasizes the body. He's probably the only kiddo that could say theology of the body when he was 5. And so he learned from an early age that if Aunt Monty or others walk into the room with the body, this goes away. Or one time, he was on the computer and I was visiting him and my sister and my brother-in-law at their house. He took the computer and turned off the computer right when he saw me, and you know what he says? Aunt Monty, we're body to body right now. Yep, we are body to body, Nikki. That is so good, isn't it? Yeah, we are body to body. And so this phrase has been part of his lingo for a long time. And that's why you, as educators of the younger kiddos, if you get them to say things like that, then what's going to happen with regard to their understanding of the liturgy? I mean, think about that. When they know that the closest that they could be to God on earth is a body-to-body encounter with Christ, it'll help them to see the Mass in a different way. I would say one of the biggest problems with children these days is they're on their iPad, they're on their calls. This goes from little ones, through junior high. Again, I'm not anti-technology, obviously, But if you can help them, not just say, put away your cell phone, put away your computer. If instead you say, it's time to be for us body to body, so put away your devices. And you can add to that, which will be through my PowerPoint talk. I'll go through that in just a second. But notice, body to body, important. Okay, next slide, please. We're gonna next slide, please. I don't know who's doing that, Kirsten or Kim or Dennis. Sometimes it takes a while to get to the first slide. If I wait here much longer, you're gonna have to have a true and factual story. Kim, can you make sure someone advances the slide, please? All right, here goes another true and factual story since I don't want to have to wait. I want you to see how the body matters with regard to teaching children about the body can be pervasive with regard to the Santa Rosa Diocese. So I've talked with some of the people, including Sister Mary Vianney, and what they see is that if you as teachers show how important it is to talk about the truth of the body, and remember when we say body, we don't only mean the external, we mean the entire person, but I would offer to you that we need to talk about the concreteness of who we are, then it will be like a cultural difference. Here's a side note. Whoever's doing the slides, if y'all would advance the slide, please. I would really appreciate that. So the idea of the language permeating throughout schools, the language permeating throughout faith formation, I think it's going to be really, really important with regard to the truth of who we are. All right. I think that's failed, so let me text someone. Will you get someone to advance the slide, please? All right. Talk about technology being good in the right time. Okay. Let me just go to some of the basics and remind you what they are. Remember, the first one is the language of the body. So the language of the body ought to be spoken in truth. I kind of referred to this, but I wanted to go in more in depth with you teachers who are teaching littler ones. So I would suggest to you, instead of saying something like this, Johnny, I see that you would prefer to run around. No, sorry. I see that by the language of your body, you're telling me you want to run around. I would suggest to you, oh, I forgot. I have access to my own PowerPoint. Oh my gosh, I'm so used to the other thing. I got it, Kim. That was so dumb of me. Okay, so about the running around. So instead say, I see by the language of your body that you are the one, you're telling me that you don't want to sit down. But now I want you to see again, actually, the truth of your body says that you should pay attention right now. And so with the language of your body, sit down, be quiet. Now notice how much more effort it takes to say something like this. It takes a lot more effort because you have to then say all the language of the body and what the meaning is, but I think it's important. Okay, so now that I know I'm the one advancing the slides, let me go to this. The basics of TOB for your whole life. I want to inspire you just as an adult, and then we'll get into these, what I have begun. So what about the whole of Catholicism? So let me ask you these questions. Which two would you choose? Would it be your basketball team's tournament or a mission? Which would you attend? Or when you help someone, was it God or you who helped them? Would you think the science or religion grade is better? And why would you pray at an abortion clinic? God or for the baby or the woman? Or what about the story magic in it, a story about a saint? Emotional healing, going to adoration or counselor? What about mass or a musical? Which is better, making a decision for prayer or pros and cons? Would you choose God or man? You see, what all of these together are kind of showing that they're in conflict, but that is not the case. We choose both. So as Catholic educators, one of the things I want you to realize is to choose both body and soul, works and grace, reason and faith, etc. That is a more of a Catholic view of reality. Otherwise, it's detachment. when we don't take seriously the body, or it's the other way around, if we only take seriously something like reason. And then some of my friends, I pointed out, you know, I love my Protestant friends. I love my secular friends, right? I have both. But to only emphasize one row rather than both rows, you fall into a different type of understanding of the human person. And so what I think that the theology of the body is meant to do is bring these together. It's like a new synthesis to remind us of the truth that the body and the soul go together, works and grace, God and man, especially in the God-man, Jesus Christ. In Jesus Christ, he shows that both are important, the natural and the supernatural. And then for your own like uplifting, you've seen this before, but I would say, what about your spouse or your other family members, your children, your students? Do you see the body as this visible sign of the whole person, and then respond to them with love? What about this? What about the classroom experience? This is kind of what I was already getting to earlier. Well, the religious development I showed you before, one of the things I want to point out now to you who teach younger kiddos is look at the first and the second rows under characteristics of religious gifts. Notice tots, like 1 to 6-year-old, it's just joy and wonder. So they don't need to like, does God exist? Right? No, they know God exists. They just know that instinctively. And then for the kids ages 6 to 7 or 6 to 9, like this is another first grade book, The Body Tells a Story. And in it, the reason why we name characters, so this one says, these two guys are called Sean and John. And the reason why we name the characters is because at that age, especially the Catechism of the Good Shepherd says that children learn better when you talk about a third person. To say the word I to them or you to them is a bit confusing. And so in the books for the younger age, when we could do it, we couldn't always stay true to that. What we do is we name the characters. And so for you as educators, when you're working with ages 6 to 9, they need that understanding of the third person, but then they also need the big picture. So you'll notice in our books for children that if we mention the crucifixion, either in the same spread or you turn the next page, they need to know about the resurrection. So if you ever use our books, that's one of the things that we make sure we stay true to. By the way, I found out that St. Eugene Cathedral School is the first school to pilot the Body Matters books. I think it's 5th, 6th, and 8th grade. They are starting to do that. So if you ever wanted to talk to teachers, I know it's hard to talk from school to school, but maybe you know someone in the Cathedral School. And those of you who are going to do that, you have educator guides, which make it quite easy and actually fun. All right, so I'm going to move on. Some of you teach 9 to 12-year-olds, though, so complex stories. That's when they can start seeing a little bit of nuances. They still need a little bit, they still need black and white, but they can start thinking in higher levels. So the more complex situations with regard to like the body and heart is why we waited for 7th grade on that. Okay, so now let's go back to this because I was talking about the language of the body, spoken in truth. And you've heard me, again, instead of saying something like, Johnny, I note you look sad, instead say, the language of your body tells me you're sad. Could I help you out? And then he might correct you like, oh, I'm not really sad. I'm just tired. But if all of you teachers in self-contained classrooms or music teachers or, what, y'all say things like, by the language of your body, please do this, or by the language of your body, it seems like you're not paying attention. Won't you pay attention? Then it just does something. Several schools in Lincoln, Nebraska, and some in Denver, some in Texas, their teachers report through their principals, like, it's almost like we have a new language, and language is so powerful that it really is transformative. So let me show you this. This is from the fourth grade book. The first fourth grade book is called The Body and Friendship. We wanted to cover the body and friendship because we want kids to know that they could live the theology of the body, and friendship is a communion of persons. And that's how we're made in God's image and likeness. But this is from The Body in Heaven. So I wanted to show you a few things from The Body in Heaven, because these children, because they need a whole view of Christianity, don't forget to mention heaven often to them. So here's what was lost. So the fall kind of broke us apart from each other. And then they'll see on the same spread this one. What is gained? Union and communion and being together. So you might say it in a different way. When children are misbehaving, when they're misbehaving and they're kind of being mean to each other, the first thing I would say is it's important not to say, we are Catholic and so you should be perfect. Like the thing about Catholicism is we know that God made us good, but we know that we have that fallen nature. But St. John Paul in the Theology of the Body is trying to let us know we don't have to stay with that fallen nature, that concupiscence, the tendency to sin. And so for kids, of course, you don't say it that way, but you could stop them, like when you see that they're arguing or at recess they're doing the wrong thing. Instead of saying the normal thing like, don't bully or be nice or what have you, I would point to the body and its meaning and say, do you remember we talked before about my body, I can hug you, my body, I could speak to you and you can listen. Remember that the body tells us we're meant to be gifts. So I noticed in recess, you were kind of being mean to someone and not like letting them take a turn. Remember, that goes against the truth of the body. And remember, we're going to be in heaven one day if we stay true to Jesus and the church. And heaven is going to be about like all of us get together. It's going to be amazing. So don't you want a taste of heaven right now? When you are tempted to kind of be mean to someone, go for a taste of heaven. That's the last chapter of this book, by the way, and the small tastes of heaven that we have. So do you see what I'm trying to do? Like, what I'm trying to guide you is like the day-to-day concrete ways, and then for them to realize the truth of eternity and how the truth of eternity is not just me staring at God, but it's much more robust. Next, remember the second thing is about body and heart together. Holiness is pure heart and bodily actions follow. So with those two things, them being together will help the children to experience themselves. But, the unfortunate thing, at a young age, they start practicing telling lies, and they try to get away with it. And at a really young age, they're really bad at it. So instead of saying, oh, you lied to me, or something like, stop lying, that's not good, I would point to the body and say, look, Susie, all I have to go by, this is more for like sixth grader, maybe fifth grader and up, all I have to go by is your body. And if you say something with your body, with your words, but internally, you know in your spirit that's opposite of it, how am I supposed to know that? All I have to go by is the body. And then for you teachers who kind of want to show them, you give them more freedom with responsibility. Sounds like Batman, doesn't it? This is what I would say, I would suggest that you say to them. Like, okay, you want some more freedom? I will give you 5 more minutes of recess if for the next 10 minutes you go by the truth of the body. And the truth of the body in this case is in your pure heart you're supposed to be quiet. So with your body, now be quiet. Let us get through this. And then you can even bring up like the idea of like, and that helps the whole class. I mean, you wouldn't say common good except for maybe 7th and 8th graders, but you're basically teaching them the common good. Like think about in society and culture. If there's only me, myself, and I, we couldn't live in a society. We need the common good. And so you might say something like, so you keep your body quiet And then that allows all of us to be able to learn together. But notice it's the word body. Hopefully right now, maybe y'all are like, I'm so tired of the body, but if you're like me, I never get tired of it. The next slide, okay, so remember I'm giving you the principles, and then I want them to know about eternity. That if they stay true to Christ in the church, look what's going to happen. So this is in the body in heaven, and Jesus has already taught that little boy. And by the way, that little boy looks like my nephew, Nicky. He loves this page, page 21. It's his favorite page. And he learned to walk through walls. And now he's teaching this little girl. Jesus is teaching this little girl to walk through a wall. How do we know that's going to be the case with our resurrected, spiritualized bodies? It's because Jesus in Scripture was able to walk through walls. And our bodies will be like his body. It'll be our same bodies, but glorified and spiritualized so that we can do things like this. And so what that does to the child, when you give them the big picture, they're like, oh, okay. And for the older ones, I would say 5th grade and up. Not sure. Yeah, probably not the younger ones. But even 5th grade and up, you might say, so when you split your body from your soul, you are not living the truth of what our bodies will be like in all eternity. And they're like, oh, so in eternity, our body and our spirit will never break apart. In heaven, our bodies and our spirit will always be together, and we will always be loving each other. And so what that does to the concept of the child, like, oh, wow, I get it. I get it, how important and beautiful that is. So let me keep going on. Now, remember the third one. So we did language of the body, and then body and soul together. So that's holiness. And then the gift of self, the meaning of life. The gift of self is love. So what about, before I do the heaven one. I love this when one teacher who was using my book, she taught me this. She goes, Monica, what I say is, boys and girls, I'm about to give the gift of self to you by giving. Won't you give the gift of self to me by receiving? And then we'll be bonded together more. Instead of saying, be quiet, everyone. And then another thing that she taught me is this. She says, when they go to a special like music or PE or whatever, she says, okay, get your bodies and line up. Your body persons. You're about to go to music. And then she asks them this. How will you be a gift of self through your body to your music teacher? Or it's the end of the day. Line up. Time to go home. How will you be a gift of self with your body to your parents? How will you be a gift of self to your coach? And you have to do that through your body. So you see the words gift of self. If you just keep saying gift of self to them, and don't forget, it's not just gift of self by giving, it's gift of self by receiving and being open to others. Transformative. And it's not hard to do this, I think, in your own classroom. Just a little bit of tweaking, mentioning the body so that they know the body is a gift. Is important. And then the bigger picture, this is for 4th graders, meant for 4th grade, but what happens when you might say something like this, and all of us will be together in heaven, and then one person is like, but I never got along with her. She was mean to me. He was bad. And so this one is, the words basically say, you'll be thrilled to see each other. All of that kind of division, the sadness, the bullying will never happen in heaven. And so to be willing to embrace the truth of the other person in heaven, and we will still give the gift of self in heaven. And we will give the gift of self in that giving and receiving way for all eternity. I hope I've shown you that because they need the big picture, to mention things like this will help them on their earthly journey here and now. So let me get to the truth about the body matters, and more specifically, some of my books. I couldn't go through them very slowly earlier. Remember this slide, like difficulty identifying oneself with one's own body? That's why the more you as teachers of elementary school students can mention the truth of the body, the better they're going to identify themselves with their body. And of course, the problem is they stay there. If they don't like their bodies, then that's receiving their bodies as a gift, no matter what. And the body is a teacher. Okay, so this is from the Mass book. Yeah, The Body in Holy Mass. See, one of the things that the first 2nd grade book, The Body is a Gift, level 2, They learn that the body is a gift, and through their senses, they can help understand being a gift to others. And so, yeah, it's vertical alignment, not just from level to level, grade to grade, but also within the same level. So this is Holy Mass. Since we've established the body as a gift, then a Holy Mass, what are we establishing then? The fact that Jesus Christ is a gift to us, and we ought to receive bodily from him. So here's one of the spreads that I've written. The gift of sight. Your body has eyes. What does God want you to find in the Mass with your sense of sight? You can see the altar. It reminds you that Jesus offers himself as a gift. You can see the light of the candles. They remind you that Jesus is the light of the world. You can see both the water and the wine. They remind you that Jesus, God's Son, is both human and divine. So let me stop right there, because what you are doing here, if you say things like this, and not only with regard to Mass, but just other things in general, you are teaching them a view of creation that it has to do with symbols. The symbols, like these are what we might call sacramentals. They point to sacraments. But what they realize is then when they go to Mass, their senses are awakened. And they can oh, why did the priest kiss the altar? Oh, why did the deacon kiss the gospel? Oh, why is the water and the wine mixed? What you're doing by pointing to the body and to the senses is you're awakening reverence in them. Reverence. So let me show you this next slide. So the gift of smell, like going through what does God want you to find, because I started this Mass as a sort of hide and seek, that we're meant to find God and God is meant to find us. So you might smell fragrant flowers. They remind you of the joy of life in Christ. You might smell the incense. It reminds you, the rising smoke reminds you that your prayers are rising to God. You might smell the spicy, sweet, holy oils. It reminds you that God can heal. Speaking about the body is so important. So you as a homeroom teacher, you might not teach religion. Maybe you do. But before you go to Mass, just say, okay, today with our bodies, we are going to focus on the candles. And then they focus on the candles, and maybe afterward you say, okay, with the language of your body, raise your hand if you want to tell me about what you learned about the candles at Mass. Something as small as that. Let's talk about the offertory. Notice the offertory. What's going on? And so instead of them being boring, whatever, it reminds them of, wow, something major is going on at Mass. And then they can have reverence. This is the spread. It actually looks better on the full spread. This is one of my favorite illustrations of the whole entire series. You see, it's meant to be bigger. But what's happening is this helps them to see that through the visible, the invisible is occurring. They can see a sacramental view of reality that St. Therese is there, Pope John Paul is there, Mother Teresa is there, St. Thomas More is there, all of the angels and saints. So remember I did that, the idea of the veil being pulled back? This is helping them to understand that. So before you go into the church, you say, okay, you're going to dip your hand in holy water and notice on your body. Don't just do it like rote. You might use a different word. Remind yourself that you're going to be looking for things in the Mass so that you know that the supernatural reality is going on. I'm telling you, it just changes the imagination of children. So this is actually for a 7th grade book. Is that right? Yes, the 7th grade book. And notice, this is what I think is key for you who are teaching littler ones, like preschool through 4th grade. If you start teaching about created things are more than mere matter, they are signs that extend beyond them. Like if you say something like, with a rock, what does a rock symbolize? You might not use the word symbolize for the littler ones, but they learn, sturdiness, steadfastness. And then if you take a piece of paper and there's a heart and you tear the heart apart, what does that symbolize? Oh, that someone didn't love or that something bad happened. Do you know that you're teaching them theology of the body? You're teaching them that mere matter is not mere matter. It takes on a deeper meaning. And then we move into seeing reality sacramentally. And so what looks like wheat and grapes, wow, that helps us to understand that that actually is Jesus Christ, sacramentally present on the altar. Now, you might back up with the kids who are probably 6th grade and older. They can handle this. Like, where do you get wheat, right? Where do you get bread? From wheat. And what happens to the wheat? It has to first die in order to rise, and then it sort of dies again by being ground. What does that tell you about Jesus Christ? Oh, he's crushed for our sins. You see, wine, it's grapes crushed. And so for the middle schoolers, they're like, oh, I get it. And then what you're doing is you're preparing them for a sacramental life with all of the various sacraments, and then particularly seeing masculinity and femininity in a sacramental way. So let me point out this. There were some people who asked about responding to transgenderism. And so what Sister Mary Vianney said is, maybe I'll mention it a little bit just to show you that the Theology Body is a way of answering those questions. But I want to let you know that I'm not going to take away from all the beauty of what I'm trying to get to in order to cover that. So let me talk about that in just a second after I finish this slide. So notice, when we see things in a symbolic and then sacramental way, the same thing goes with masculinity and femininity. I'll say this in a different way. When we see the male body as a sign which says, this is my body, I give my life for you, and I love you. And the female body saying, I receive you, and I love you. Now, this diagram is not complete because there has to be reciprocity, and the woman gives, and then the man receives. Okay, so please take that for what it's worth. Then we know that the body is not it's not at all an avatar. It's not a shell. It reveals the whole person. And then what is our goal? Our goal is love. And the typical 2 ways of loving is through commitment to a religious life as a priest or a religious, or the natural way of loving is through the sacrament of marriage. Now, there's a lot of caveats, so please, again, I keep telling you, I don't have enough time to cover all of this, but let me go back to the idea of what you might say with regard to masculinity and femininity, because someone said that, a 4th grade teacher mentioned the idea of, what do you say if a 4th grader says, I think I might be, let's say it's a girl, I think I might be a male, or a boy, I think I might be a female. So the first thing to do is not to freak out. There's no reason to freak out. And the reason I say it that way is because when we remain calm, then they'll see that any question that they ask, any concern that they have, we can respond to it. So now, but what about you internally? What if internally, oh my gosh, what am I supposed to say? And do I need to report this to their parents? And do I need to tell the principal? And I get it. I used to be a teacher, a classroom teacher, so I know all those things are going on. But I also know in this case, don't let your body reveal this kind of inner strife. Go to the deeper inner movements of the heart where you know that the truth will set you free. And the truth will set that 4th grader free. We have the truth because Jesus Christ is God, and he entrusted to the church the truth of who we are. And the Catholic Church backs up the body. You name any sensitive topic, and I'm telling you, it's going to be that people want to go against the truth of the body. They think they can just do whatever they want to with their body. I think that's what Bishop Vasquez was talking about this morning when he introduced things. He's saying we need to understand the truth of being human. And so to think that we can manipulate our bodies, it's not living according to the way God designed all of us, which, by the way, therefore will lead us away from experiencing the truth of ourselves, and then it'll lead us away from being able to love fully. Notice the word fully, okay? So fully is a caveat. Let me keep going on this. Let me say with regard to the idea of transgenderism. So if a kid says to you, yeah, I feel like I'm the opposite sex, is the way we'd say, then I would like listen to him or her and say, why do you say that? And I'm telling you, one of the reasons why in the 7th grade book, Our Bodies Made Male and Female, which is being printed as I speak. It should be ready by October 15th, Feast of St. Teresa of Avila. What we say is there are stereotypes and archetypes. Most people, when they say, I shouldn't say most people. In my experience, some people, when they say, I feel the opposite sex, it's because they think in stereotypical terms instead of archetypal terms. So, for instance, like right now, I am instructing many of you, and I know some of you are probably men, and the stereotype would say, how dare women instruct men? But that's stupid. Like, my body doesn't say I should not instruct anybody. In fact, it's the opposite. All humans are meant to express themselves through words. So what I'm trying to get to is the idea of stereotype. I have a feeling if I lived in this day and age as a little kid right now, I might think I'm transgender because I'm so blessed and good at sports. Sorry to advertise my athleticism. I'm really good at sports, or at least I used to be before I was 55. And so I might have thought, well, because I'm better than all my boys at PE class, I must be a boy too. That's a stereotype. And so the body is what is essential, you might say, with regard to understanding who we are. Deacon Dennis, do we have till 5? Is that what my cutoff is? I hear your mic. I think that's what it is. Oh, 4:45, yeah. So I think I have 7 minutes left. Deacon Dennis, your mic is on. So let me keep going on this sensitive topic. Another way of saying this is, after you've heard from them, right, then the next thing you might say is, well, let's look at your body. And again, you don't need to talk about genitals to children. You just say boy body or girl body. I mentioned these books before. These are my cardboard books. The Body is Smart, and then Every Body is a Gift. And, and everybody has a body. In this one, I say, I'm a boy. I have a boy body like daddy. And I'm glad that I have a body. So that's what I would say to the children that age. I did talk about this subject to the high school teachers. Much more complex, much more difficult. But one of the things that I would offer to you is so there are some states which make teachers cannot say boy or girl anymore. They have to call their students purple penguins. I'm telling you, this is not good for children. One of the reasons why I started writing The Body Matters is because I got phone calls from Canada, and they're like, Monica, please start the theology of the body in an earlier way. And so, and the bishops on my advisory board said, yeah, I think you need to do that. But what the Canadians said, they make, I think it's first graders, close their eyes, and they say to them, you decide whether you're a boy or a girl. Don't let anybody else tell you otherwise. And so, is that good for a child? Or is it better to receive our bodies as a gift the way God designed them? And to help them to understand the difference between stereotype and archetype, like the blueprint of who we are. Okay, so I know I have 5 more minutes now, so let me move this down. And now I don't have access anymore. Oh, well, good. So let me, Deacon, if you can make the slide go, maybe it's just stuck. Otherwise, I'll just, with 5 minutes, I'll kind of recap what we've done already. Anyway, what have I said? All of these 18 books have the word body in them. The body matters. And so what is what's the foundation of everything? Just speaking about the truth of the body. And then for you educators of elementary and middle school kiddos, the 3 things, the language of the body, holiness, and then the gift of self, all involve the body. And I would say to you, the more that you bring that up and the truth of the body, the more these children are going to understand who they are in Christ. And then I applied it to some of a controversial issue, which is kind of the one that you might say plagues us nowadays. I would conclude with this. Make no mistake about it. The devil does not like the human body. The devil does not want us to take seriously the truth that we are body persons. And so for you, without the kiddos even knowing it, because if they haven't heard the thing about transgenderism, please don't tell them, right? So just help them to understand that their body is a gift and that the gift of self is the meaning of life. And then for you, one of the slides I wanted to go down is this one. It's the slide that says, be where your body is. So you as an educator, be where your body is. What I realized when I was a teacher is sometimes, let's say after school, a kid comes up and she's talking to me and I'm like figuring out my lesson plans or whatever. What I learned through the theology of the body is what I need to do is I need to recognize, respect that child. And so I see a body, there's a person, the only proper response to a person is love, and therefore I could say this, you know, Susie, I know you want to talk to me. I have got to finish these lesson plans, and so will you please let me look at my lesson plans and at the same time listen half-heartedly. At least acknowledge that. At least acknowledge that for her so that she knows that you're kind of divided. Or if you have time, put the computer away and be body to body with her. I see the slide got moved again. You've seen this before. And so kind of my final, you could do this. Remember, you are helping children find their identity is in the smallest things. Find God. In the smallest things that happen. Find the penetration of the divine into the human. God is not like a clockmaker God. He cares intimately about each one of us, which is why when you're so tired of teaching and it's really hard and difficult, remember to say the most important words of the universe. And what are the most important words of the universe? Guess what it has to do with? This is my body. So if you think about it, Jesus says, this is my body. He could have said it 3 times in his life. Number 1, at his incarnation, while he's growing up. Well, think about his teachers. When he was in first grade, the equivalent of first grade, second grade, third grade, he could say, Mommy, this is my body and I'm a boy. And he received that as a gift. And then when else does Jesus say, this is my body? At the Last Supper. The Last Supper is the same thing as Calvary, which is the same thing as Mass. When we hear the words echoed again, this is my body given. You see, Pope Benedict says, this is my body, important words of the universe, and then the next word tells the nature of man, the nature of all of us. We are to give the gift of self. We are to love. And then the last time Jesus could have said, this is my body, is when he points to you and he points to me. And he says, this is my body. In other words, you and I are the mystical body of Christ. All that you do, think about what you have to do as a teacher. I was talking to a former teacher the other day. I'm like, oh my gosh, my life is not as chaotic as when I used to have to make hundreds of decisions every day. Think about what you have to do as teachers, and now that you have to do digital and virtual and together and whatever, you make decisions so often, the smallest thing, can I go to the bathroom, can I not, can I do this, can I not? But when you are tired and, lonely, when you are frazzled, don't forget that you can also say, this is my body given with Jesus Christ. You extend his incarnation. The Catechism of the Catholic Church says we are the extension of the incarnation. We are his hands and his feet now. And that is good news. When people get to experience Jesus Christ through you and through me, the world is a better place. And that's what the theology of the body can give to all of us. So let us end with, I think we're going to end with the rosary. So I'll let Deacon Dennis take over, but it's been a pleasure. Thank you for receiving my gift of self. And gosh, I wish I could be there body to body with y'all. But may our Lord bless you, and may you say, this is my body given. Deacon or Sister Mary Vianney, it's all yours. Thank you.
Thank you, Monica. I think you can hear me right now. My camera is not quite logging on yet. So we'll see if it will let me start that in a moment. But yes, we were going to end the day with these wonderful reflections with just praying a decade of the Rosary, and to pray particularly the decade of the Assumption of the Blessed Virgin Mary, because this decade reminds us that how important the body is in God's plan, because when our Lord brought his own mother to heaven, he wanted her there, body and soul. And so we will pray that one together. So let's see if I can get that video starting now.